What is your name, please?
My name is Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor.
My name is Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor. My name is Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor.
Only one of these young ladies is the real Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle. On To Tell the Truth with your host, Bud Collier.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, Bud.
Oh, my, I can't tell you how good that sounds.
Good to see you, buddy.
After 4 weeks in a hospital, you get to learn a lot of things, and among them how nice people are. And I thank all of you for being so thoughtful while I was away, and thanks to all of you, and bless you. I'd also like to thank very sincerely, and have you give a round of applause to help me thank him, Robert Q. Lewis, for doing such a swell job while I was away, for Bob. We're brought to you this evening by Winston Filter Cigarettes. Panel, please open your envelope, if you will, and follow along with me as I read from my copy of this first story. I, Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor, own, train, and show dogs. I specialize in Welsh corgis. This one, champion Craigo Red Sand of Côte d'Ivoire, has won 7 best of breeds in shows around the country. Craigo was entered this year in the biggest of all, the Westminster Dog Show in Madison Square Garden. I have held a few titles myself. I have been Miss Toy Queen, Miss College Campus Sweetheart, Miss Guaranteed All-Woman, and Miss Heavy Armored Maintenance. Both my titles and my dogs are sidelines to my real occupation. I am an exotic dancer in burlesque. My stage name is Irma the Body. Signed, Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor. Panel, these 3 ladies all claim to be Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor, dog fancier, and Irma the Body. Let's start this questioning, if we may, with Tom Poston. Tom?
Oh, yes. Yes. Number 3, do you know Jimmy Lakes?
Jimmy who?
Jimmy Lakes.
Jimmy Legs? I don't believe so.
Do you know number 2? Who's Jimmy Lakes?
I don't know a Jimmy Lakes.
Do you know number 1? Jimmy Lakes?
I think it's been torn down.
Not,
bit by bit, you understand.
not drained. Number 2 are Dachshunds hunting dogs. Do you know?
They fall in group number 1, which is not a hunting dog, but a sporting dog.
Number 3, what is that? Gee, that's interesting.
Peggy Cass.
Number 3, what is the triple crown of the dog show world? Westminster is 1. What are the other 2?
Well, there's the Golden Gate in San Francisco, and there's, I believe it's the Windsor Kennel Club in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Number 2, who's Bob Forsythe?
Bob Forsythe is a handler who's quite well known.
Thank you. Number 1, who won Westminster this year?
A Scotty.
The name?
Orson Bean.
Number 3, what is an ecdysiast?
That's a stripper.
All right. Number 1, what is a talking woman?
It's a principal woman.
In what? Medium.
In burlesque.
All right. Number 2, who is Steve Mills?
Steve Mills is in the music business. He is an arranger.
Number 1, again, what is that dog that looks like a Cocker Spaniel married a Dachshund, and that's the kid? It's like a long, hairy thing.
It's a purebred dog?
Yeah.
It looks like what?
Well, it looks like a Cocker Spaniel married number 3. Have you ever seen this phenomenon? Walking in the park, perhaps, stopping here and there, minding his own business. Number 2, have you? Nobody knows the wretched creature. All right.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 1, how did you get interested in dogs?
Well, I didn't want to work every week because taxes were too high.
Oh. Number 2, do you know the name of an English dog judge? Very famous English judge of dogs.
Are you talking about the current dog show judge, Mr. Kern?
No. Yeah. Number 3, what is a Lhasa Terrier?
A Lhasa Terrier?
Mm-hmm.
That falls into the terrier group.
What does it look like?
Well, it's
Where does it come from?
a Lhasa Terrier.
Number 2, do you know where a Lhasa Terrier comes from?
Yes, a Lhasa Terrier comes from, I believe, Belgium.
Thank you. Number 1,
That's
what
all the time we have. With the knowledge that you've gained about dogs, etc., suppose you mark your ballots, if you will, panel. Mark them at once without consultation. And, of course, without change once you have marked them. Select, if you will, number 1, or number 2, or number 3. Naturally enough, since nothing has changed, our team of challengers will receive $250 for every incorrect vote. All ballots marked, and swiftly, all but 1. Very well. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 1, Bud. Jimmy Lake's, she's right in a way because it was a theater, but it was named after a famous burlesque entrepreneur in Washington, D.C., where I spent many happy... Well...
Peggy Cass.
Well, I voted for number 2 because she knows Bob Forsythe, who handles the Whippet. And number 3, the Triple Crown, is in Chicago in Southern California. And I forget what number 1 said. And Lhasa Apso is what you mean.
That's right. Yes.
Is that so? Orson.
Number 1 was quite right when she said a talking woman was a principal lady. It's usually a former exotic dancer who is somewhat, over bountiful anymore and has
Long
taken
in the
up...
tooth.
Long in the tooth, yes. I voted for number 1. Number 2 said that Steve Mills was in the music business. Steve Mills is a marvelous comic with the Ann Corio. This was a burlesque show.
Kitty Carlisle.
I voted for number 2. Number 2 misled me slightly about the Lhasa Terrier. It's a long way from home in Belgium because I think it comes from Tibet. But I still think it's number 2.
Me too.
Yeah.
well.
There's so many more questions I wanted to ask.
You can't fool us, Phil. I'm sorry.
Splits it up 2 and 2. 2 for number 1, 2 for number 2. Let's find out immediately which one of these 3 ladies, in truth, is the dog fancier and is also Irma the body. Will the real Mary Elizabeth Goodneighbor please stand up? Number 2, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My real name is Rosalind Roberts, and I'm co-producer of a new television show called Country A Go-Go.
Successfully. And number 3, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Gloria Paul, and I'm a real estate broker in Hollywood.
Well, in checking the score, you did well. Believe me, starting off with handing him a 50-50 vote, and that means there were 2 incorrect, and that's twice $250 for $500 for you ladies to divide. I hope it brings you great joy, and thank you for the pleasant evening you brought to us. Goodbye, and God bless you. Okay, panel, take a minute while we look at this brief film. Now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Lester Hemingway.
My name is Lester Hemingway.
My name is Lester Hemingway.
Panel, will you follow along with your next copy, please, as I read from mine? I, Lester Hemingway, am the founder of the island republic of New Atlantis. Located in the Caribbean Sea, my country has its own unit of currency called the scruple, its own flag, a white bordering gold triangle on a field of blue, and its own postage stamps honoring Lyndon Baines Johnson, protector of the entire free world. New Atlantis allows no gambling and levies no taxes. The entire country consists of 240 square feet of bamboo logs anchored in 9 fathoms of water. It has only 2 government officers. I am president. The vice president also bears the title Grand Duchess of New Atlantis. Her real name is Lady Pamela Bird. Signed, Lester Hemingway. Now, these three gentlemen panel all claim to be Lester Hemingway, president of the Republic of New Atlantis. Let's start the cross-examination this time with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you, Bud. Mr. Hemingway, number 3, I have heard vaguely something about your municipality or principality. Why did you do this extraordinary thing?
It's the challenge of marine research. A small country in the water is probably the best place where you can study the entire marine field.
I see. Number 2, your country consists of a bunch of sticks of bamboo. What is your principal product? I mean, do you have any natives that live there until the bamboo?
No, we're kind of light on population right now. It's not a very big island. It's bamboo and wire and rope and one thing and the other.
Number 1, what would you do if your whole country floated into Florida or something?
We'd claim it.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 1, would you claim Florida, your country?
Florida, of course.
Number 2, can anyone own a country?
Well, as a matter of fact, if you can find one that's not claimed, yes, you can.
Number 3, how did you manage to stake this claim?
Small declaration.
Can anyone do it?
Apparently.
Number 1, what relation are you to Lady Bird?
None whatsoever.
Oh, are you any relation, number 2, to Ernest Hemingway?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
Number 3, can you tell me why you chose the name Scruple for your currency?
Seemed that a scruple would be an almost perfect monetary unit. More scruples a man has, the less antisocial activity.
Tom Poston.
That's marvelously. I love that. Where did the bamboo come from? Number 3, I'll start asking you where the bamboo came from for your island.
From Jamaica.
Because I know they have a little trouble growing it in this country. Number 2, is there any other single man that you know of who owns a country in the same area in which you're located? In the Caribbean, I'll put it that way.
Not in the same way that this is. No, this is a unique, as far as I know, it's a unique venture.
Do you know of anybody else, number 1?
No, I don't.
You know why? I'll ask. Do you know number 3? Do you know of another man who has gone through the procedures that is necessary to go through to have his own country in your area?
There's Montserrat, and there used to be some counts of Montserrat, I believe.
No, I don't know what that is.
Peggy Cass.
Number 2, do you have running fresh water on your 242 square feet?
Well, we have a certain amount of water that's there for purposes, but there isn't any fresh water. There isn't any fresh water as such. We don't go to one.
Well, if in this country, do you put into some other country for the night so you can go to bed? Number 1?
No, you can sleep right on it. Plenty of room, I mean...
Oh,
sure.
swell. Number 3, what about cooking? You have a stove and everything. It's so smart, you can put a rug on it. I mean, number 3, do you cook on it?
Just one stove does the cooking.
And number 2, all these grand stamps. You have a printing press there and a post office?
Oh, no. The stamp has been properly and officially designed, and that has been made here in the States.
Now, that's all the time we have. Panel, so stake out your own claims on your ballots, if you will, please, and mark them now. Without consultation and without change, simply vote. For the one you think is the real one, numbering your votes among number 1, number 2, or number 3. All ballots marked? Now they are. All right. Tom, for whom this time?
I voted for number 3. It seems to me that I was on a television show where one of the guests, I think it was Missing Links or something, owned his own island. I remember that he had to go through a lot of procedure to get own his own country. So I voted for number 3 because he knew about it at least.
Peggy Cass.
Well, I voted for number 2. I didn't vote for number 3 because, well, I don't know, he laughed too much. And number 2 seemed to believe in his post office. He had those stamps made well.
But 3 looks something like Papa.
Orson B.
Yes, number 3 looks exactly like Ernest Hemingway, but I had to vote for 1 because the idea of Florida being claimed by a bunch of sticks of bamboo is too glorious.
Kitty Carlisle.
I voted for number 3 because when he said if a man has enough scruples, he's not too antisocial. The whole philosophy seemed to fit what he said. Number 2 did say that he was a relative of Mr. Hemingway's with a certain degree of seriousness, but I still voted for number 3.
Very well, there we have it then, with the widely split vote for this panel. 1 for number 1, 1 for number 2, 2 for number 3. Let's find out immediately which one of these 3 gentlemen, in truth, is the president of the Republic of New Atlantis. Will the real Lester Hemingway. Please stand up. As a matter of fact, Lester Hemingway is an author and journalist, too. He has written a book on his latest exploit called The New Atlantis Adventure. Is that right, sir?
Right, sir.
And as was brought out in the questioning, it's a tradition in the family started by Lester's older brother, Ernest Hemingway. Now, number one, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Dick Creedy, and I'm an advertising consultant.
And number two, you had as good a time as the others did. What is your real name and what do you do?
My real name's Jerry Isherwood, and I'm program director for CKPR Radio, which is part of CKPR Radio and TV in Port Arthur, Fort William, Ontario.
Well, in checking the score, we find that there were 2 solid incorrect votes, and that's twice $250 for $500. Gentlemen, may it bring you great joy, and we thank you for being with us tonight. Goodbye, and God bless you. Our third team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Glen Ferguson.
My name is Glen Ferguson.
My name is Glen Ferguson.
Again, follow along, panel, if you will. You have copies. I, Glen Ferguson, am director of Vista, Volunteers in Service to America, which is the domestic version of the Peace Corps. Vista volunteers, serving without salary and without the incentive of travel abroad, are part of the President's anti-poverty program. They are assigned to Indian reservations, city slums, migrant workers' camps, and other depressed areas of this country. They are charged with the difficult task of increasing the opportunities for those of our countrymen who, through no fault of their own, are unable to participate in those vast opportunities which the American democratic system has made available for most of us. Signed, Glen Ferguson. Very well, panel. These 3 gentlemen all claim to be Glen Ferguson, director of Vista, Volunteers in Service to America. Let's start with Kitty Carlisle. Kitty?
Thank you, Bud. Congratulations. It's a wonderful thing you're doing. Number one, if your people don't serve with salary, what do they live on?
They have a living allowance.
How much is it?
Depends on the area where they're working.
Thank you. Number two, what are the ages that you have to be to become a member of this Peace Corps?
Over 18.
And what is the
There's
top
no
limit?
upward limit.
Oh, that's marvelous. Oh, isn't that glorious?
Yes,
oh.
that's great.
Oh. What training do you have to have, number three?
Well, in Vista, we have a 6 weeks training program, 2 weeks of intensive training and then 2 weeks in the area in which they're going.
Do you have to have a college degree, number two?
No, you don't.
Of any kind?
No.
Anyone can join?
Yes.
Number one, where is the most needed areas at the moment? Slum areas, Indian reservations, what?
Urban slum areas.
Urban, thank you.
Tom Poston.
Thank you. Number three, why would you say that there are members of the American community which are unable to participate in those vast opportunities which the system has made available to most of us? Why would you say that they're unable to? May I ask, number three?
Well, it just seems to be part of our system. We have so many people that are in need of this kind of help, and they just don't seem to have the same start that others have.
Number two, how does that allowance that number one spoke of, how does that vary from place to place, may I ask? How do you determine how much it varies and how it varies?
Well, it's the result of examination, investigation in the area. And a person working in an urban area would receive more money probably than a person working in a rural area.
Thank you.
Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number one, what is HARYOU? H-A-R-Y-O-U?
HARYOU is Harlem Youth, the program in the Harlem area of New York.
Thank you. Number three, who is Philip Harrington?
I don't know Philip Harrington.
Number two, where is Appalachia?
It's the region of the Appalachian Mountains.
Thank you. Number one, do you, go in and help teach migrant farmers' children?
Yes, we do.
Well, number three, are you also like a police effort to make sure, do you police them to make sure that those children are sent to school until they're old enough to leave school? I mean,
no.
You don't do that?
No.
No. Well, number 2, what would you do with the migrant workers' children? I mean, how would you help there?
Help with daycare while the parents are working.
Orson B.
Number 3, how, in your opinion, what would be the best way for an individual on relief to break the endless chain of being on relief forever? What do you advise such people? If a man wants to get off relief and get a job, and can make more money by staying on relief, as is often the case.
No, that isn't so. I think that he's just got to get a push. Somebody's got to help him along, and that's the idea of our program.
Number 1, what is mobilization for youth?
That's another program in the New York area to help the impoverished.
All right. Number 2, who appointed you as head of Vista?
President Johnson.
Ah. Number 3, is that the truth?
That's the truth.
Number 3, again, does a person...
And that's all the time we have, I'm sorry to say.
It's a great program.
Story, isn't
Fascinating.
it? Marvelous. So mark your ballots, if you will, please, and that'll make this a great program. Mark them for the one you think is the right one, and vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. All marked and swiftly. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 1. I think he has a serious look and a dedication that it's going to take. It's a great program. I think it's really marvelous for this administration.
Peggy Cass.
I voted for number 3. He's sort of shy, and I like his looks.
Orson B.
Well, number 3 looks like President Kennedy would have appointed him, and number 2 looks like President Johnson would have appointed him, so I voted for number 2.
What about you, Kitty?
I voted for number 3. They all seem to have the compassion and the care for human dignity that goes with this kind of program, but I thought number 3 had a tiny bit more of it when he spoke about the fact that the man on relief just needs a bit of a push and a kind helping hand. So I voted for number 3.
Would you repeat your reason, please?
I felt it very strongly.
You certainly did, and it was well done, too. So there we have the votes all in, and the mind solidly made up. Let's see whether they stand or fall by them as we learn now which one of these gentlemen, in truth, is the director of Vista. Will the real Glen Ferguson please stand up? Thank you, sir, very much. I know I speak for all of us when we say we're mighty proud of the work that you're doing. How did you become personally to get involved in it?
I had been working with the Peace Corps for the last 3 years and moved over to the task force on poverty a year ago.
Was this an idea of the administration, or did you have something to do with suggesting it?
It was an idea of the administration.
Well, that's fine, and it's a marvelous, selfless kind of duty, and what can I say but bless your heart?
Thank you,
Great,
sir.
we're proud of you. Number 2, what is your real name, and what do you really do?
My name is Dixon McKenna. I'm an architect with the firm of Tippett's, Abbott, McCarthy, and Stratton.
And number 3, what is your real name, sir, and what do you do?
My name is Peter McDonough, and I'm the vice president of the Plainfield Lumber and Supply Company out of New Jersey.
Just goes to show you that typecasting doesn't always work. Well, gentlemen, may I say that you've done the best job tonight at fooling this panel with your smiles and your compassion, which is general all the way, because we could read a definite sympathy with the entire movement, even in the 2 of you who've been exposed to it possibly for the first time in studying up on your parts for this imposter's job. There were 3 incorrect votes, which should interest you, because that's 3 times $250. Easy to break down $750 3 ways, and I hope it breaks down to great happiness for all of you and continued success in Vista, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Good night, and God bless you. Right now, let's take time out for a brief film. Back in a minute. Well, my friends, we roamed over a lot of territory tonight. We roamed from Ecdysias to islands to Vista, and what more can you ask?
But we got you back, and that's the best.
Thank you. I got you back. That's the better part of it of all. Thank you, and good night to you. That's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks to all of you. Good night from Winston, and I'll be seeing you again next week at the same time, of course, that we do tomorrow afternoon in the daytime show, and in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Bye.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.
Stay tuned for a rousing half hour as Buddy Hackett joins Steve Allen on I've Got a Secret, next on CBS.
To Tell the Truth has been brought to you tonight by Tempo, the new filter cigarette with charcoal. Tempo for taste too good to miss. This is Johnny Olson speaking. For To Tell the Truth, the program was pre-recorded.